Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are journeying into the most complex and fascinating territory there is, your own mind. We're going to look at a whole new way to understand why you feel what you feel, and it goes way beyond just saying our emotions are random.
Right, let's just jump in with a big question. We all have days where our moods, our feelings, our impulses, they just seem to come out of nowhere, right? They just take over. But what if they're not random at all?
What if every single one of those feelings, joy, anxiety, even that sudden bout of frustration, is actually a signal, a clear message? Well, today we're unpacking a really powerful framework that sees our inner world not as chaotic weather, but as a dynamic landscape with its own predictable features.
So first things first, let's talk about this invisible landscape. To get a handle on our own minds, we need a map of the terrain. And it turns out, at the very core of that map, there's a single fundamental force shaping everything we think and do.
And it's called brain strain. Now, think of it like an invisible force, kind of like gravity, that's constantly pulling and pushing on your thoughts. It's not good, it's not bad, it just is. It's the underlying energy that carves out our entire mental life, from our deepest memories to how we react right here, right now.
Okay, so this landscape inside our heads, it's not static. Not at all. It's constantly moving, constantly being shaped by this epic tug-of-war between two huge competing forces, our memory versus the moment.
On one side, you've got memory strain. Think of this as the bedrock of your mind. It's the slow, heavy, powerful force of your habits, your lifelong beliefs, all your conditioning. It has a ton of inertia. But on the other side, you've got imposed strain. And this is like the weather. It's the fast-moving, immediate hits from rewards, punishments, and all the surprises the world throws at you. And it can reshape things in a flash.
So, this brings us to a really cool insight from this whole model, the golden ratio. See, the balance between that deep bedrock of memory and the chaotic weather of the moment, it isn't random. It follows a specific ratio that we can actually understand.
So, which one wins? How does your brain decide? Does it stick to the deep, comfortable riverbed of habit, or does it suddenly change course because of a flash flood from some new reward? Well, the answer isn't just about which one is stronger.
It's all about their ratio. As you can see right here, this R value is found by dividing the imposed strain, that's the weather, by the memory strain, the bedrock. And this simple little formula is what dictates pretty much everything: how we act, how we feel, and how we learn.
And check this out. This ratio gives us three key states of being. When the ratio is low, memory is in charge, and we're just running on autopilot, on habit. When the ratio gets way too high, the outside world is just overwhelming us, and that leads to stress, to burnout. But right there in the middle, when the forces are pretty much balanced, that's the sweet spot. That is where we learn best.
Okay, so this is all great in theory, but how does it actually apply to our day-to-day lives? Well, this is where it gets really powerful. We can use this framework to actually map our emotions, to understand them as the brain's own compass.
So instead of seeing our feelings as these messy, rational things that just happen to us, this model shows us they're useful, direct information. They're literally the brain's way of telling us about the shape, the pressure, and the stability of our mental terrain at any given moment.
And this is where it gets super practical. The model translates our feelings into signals about what's happening inside. So joy, that's the feeling of built-up strain being suddenly released, like a dam breaking. Anxiety, that's your brain signaling there's a steep, unstable slope up ahead. Frustration is when your mental energy is just blocked. Our emotions are literally a map of the territory.
So, what happens when this carefully balanced system gets pushed way too far? What happens when the landscape itself starts to break down and that natural flow of strain gets all jammed up? You see, in a healthy brain, just about every mental event, from deciding what to eat to feeling an emotion, it follows this beautiful natural arc. There's a buildup of tension, a peak where you make a decision or take an action, and then a satisfying release. The system relaxes. It's the mind's natural rhythm.
But here's the thing, a lot of mental health struggles can be understood as this arc breaking down at a specific point. If the process fails to even start, it can look like apathy or depression. If it gets stuck in that rising phase, you might see obsession. And if it never, ever reaches that final resolution, well, that strain just gets stuck on a loop, leading to things like chronic anxiety or PTSD.
So you have to ask, where does all this unhealthy, chronic strain even come from? Our brains evolved to deal with natural rewards that release strain pretty quickly. But modern life, it often hits us with these artificial pressures. Things like grades, job targets, social media likes. These things create a constant, unresolved strain that doesn't follow that healthy arc, and that can push the whole system toward burnout. And really, this whole concept is summed up perfectly by this powerful idea from the research. Rewards and punishments aren't like little puppeteers pulling the strings on your individual thoughts. No, they're more like landscape artists, constantly reshaping the terrain, changing the hills and valleys where your thoughts are even born.
And that's our explainer for today. This framework is so much more than a cool theory. It's a map. It's a map to your inner world. It gives you the tools to understand the bedrock of your habits, the passing weather of the moment, and all the signals your emotions are sending you. So the only real question left is, now that you have the map, how are you going to navigate?